I'm back to read chapter 3 today in Medusa Jones. From those of you that I've been able to speak with in the Google Meets, it sounds like you're really enjoying the story so far and are very surprised at some of the things that have happened. So I hope you keep enjoying all the connections to ancient Greece, the mythology characters, and the fantasy elements, and the real life world things that are included in Ross Collins' story. So here we go. Chapter 3. Once and only once each year, there is a day known as the longest day. On this day, the sun rises earlier and it sets later than usual. Today was not that day. But to Medusa Jones, it felt as though it was. The school seemed to have nothing better to talk about all day than Medusa's hat humiliation. Wherever Medusa went, she heard sniggering and whispers behind her. The whispers stopped each time she turned around. Everyone knew about the supposed power of Medusa's gaze, but none were as sure as the champions that she wouldn't use it at will. The giggling got particularly depressing when she was asked to deliver a note to the staff room and heard the distinct sound of a guff from Mr. Achilles, the PE teacher, as she left. Can you imagine? The teachers are also giving her a hard time. What kind of a school is she going to? It seemed as though the bell would never ring, but eventually it did. After most of the other children had run laughing and shouting to freedom, Medusa packed her satchel and began the walk home. She decided to walk along the main street for a diversion, where she could look into the shop windows and admire the pastries. Medusa and her mother would often go pastry admiring when they were in low spirits. Medusa wandered down the street, ignoring the familiar stares of the townspeople. She paused occasionally to look in the window, but it seemed that most of the shops had already sold most of their pastries for the day. There wasn't much to see, apart from the odd currant bun, which had been squeezed by everyone before they had settled on something tastier instead. After a while, Medusa saw a shop that she didn't recognize. It was a new shop with a freshly painted front, gleaming, polished fittings, and a large sign hanging outside with a picture of a glamorous lady smiling as though she had just won the lottery. Medusa walked closer and read the words below the blissful woman, and she read the sign. It said, "Fed up with you? A new you is just a snip away." Medusa looked up at the sign above the door, and in large, impressive golden letters it read, "Salon de Joseph, hairdressing to the gentry." Medusa wasn't sure what the gentry was, but she liked the sound of it and decided to go in. The air inside Salon de Joseph was thick with perfume and wax, and on the walls there were pictures like the one outside of insanely smiling ladies with outrageous hairstyles. One had a bird's nest atop her head, her hair braided to look like a pelican. Another had her hair styled to resemble a pouncing tiger, but she looked extremely pleased with it. On one side of the room was a row of plush chairs, one of which was occupied by a fat lady with a dog the size of a rat on her lap. The dog yapped at Medusa when it caught sight of her. The fat lady turned to see what the rat was yapping at and immediately stood up and tottered out. Medusa went over and sat where the woman had been, and the seat was nice and warm. On the other side of the room was a row of elevated seats with grand gold-framed mirrors in front of each one. One of them was occupied by a lady who was having her hair transformed into what looked like a monkey on a bicycle. The man who was doing the transforming had his back to Medusa. His arms and hands moved feverishly around the sculpture. A tweak here, a snip there, until finally he stopped dead, threw his tiny scissors on the floor, and he shouted, "Voila!" He pushed a lever that caused the seat to shoot upward. The woman gazed at her new hair for the first time. The monkey on the bicycle seemed to be laughing, and somehow the wheels looked like they were turning. "Monsieur Joseph!" squealed the lady. "I'm reborn! You are a genius!" Monsieur Joseph said, "I know." With a flick of his foot, the chair plummeted back to the floor, and the woman wobbled out of the salon, grinning from ear to ear. A moment, Madame Pomfrey," said Monsieur Joseph with his back to Medusa as he arranged the lotions, combs, and scissors on the shelf below the mirror. He carefully removed all the hair from the chair with a brush the size of a toothpick, and he finally slapped his hands together and he turned around. Medusa smiled her nicest smile at Monsieur Joseph. He was a small pear-shaped man with long, elegant fingers and a mustache which had been styled to curve around his cheeks and into his ears. Monsieur Joseph looked at Medusa. "Hello," said Medusa. "Who are you?" said Monsieur Joseph. "And what have you done with Madame Pomfrey?" Medusa had never heard an accent like this before in Greece. "She left," said Medusa. "I'm Medusa, Medusa Jones." She smiled again. Monsieur Joseph sniffed, but then he caught sight of Medusa's hair. His expression altered to one of interest. "Have you been here before?" he asked, and he pointed to Medusa's head snakes. "Is these one of mine?" "No," said Medusa. "I've not been here before. They are mine." "C'est magnifique," said Monsieur Joseph. "I've never seen their like so real, so snaky." "Thank you," Medusa said. "And what do you want of me?" asked Monsieur Joseph, transfixed by the head snakes. "I want what the sign says," Medusa answered. "A new me, please." "But this is an original," said Monsieur Joseph. "Why would you change this?" "I'm sick of being an original," said Medusa. "I want something normal." "Like what?" Monsieur Joseph asked. "I don't know," said Medusa. "Just give me the works." "Ah, the works you will have, mademoiselle." Monsieur Joseph smiled, and he patted the styling chair. Up here, and Monsieur Joseph will create." So Medusa hopped up onto the seat, and a clean white sheet immediately billowed around her shoulders and was gently secured at the back of her neck. Monsieur Joseph then picked up a selection of tiny bottles, and he began to spray delicate mists across the head snakes. The first was warm water, the second a light perfume with the scent of lavender, and the third something that smelled like honey and gave Medusa a tingling sensation on her forehead. The head snakes slowly coiled and basked in the warm aromas. They weren't used to such attention. All Medusa did was dunk them in a bucket of cold water once a week. "So lifelike," gasped Monsieur Joseph. "It is a shame. And yet once you have the monkey on the bicycle, you will never go back." He began to massage the head snakes with his long, nimble fingers, and they lightly hissed with pleasure. He stretched them out to their full length, kneading each little bone, and he let them flop back down. The head snakes couldn't believe their luck. "And now, mon petit Mademoiselle Medusa," said Monsieur Joseph with a flourish, "prepare to be transformed." Medusa tightened her grip on the armrests. This was the beginning of the rest of her life. Monsieur Joseph held aloft a large pair of silver scissors, the light dancing on their blades and dazzling Medusa. With one deft flick of his wrist, Monsieur Joseph took his first snip. Instantaneously, every single head snake stopped basking and turned to face their attacker. Monsieur Joseph also stopped, his long-fingered hands hovering above the head snakes. "So lifelike," he squeaked as every head snake rose up and then plunged down, jaws gaping, teeth biting, finger munching. Monsieur Joseph screamed, tumbling backward, bottles and scissors crashing to the floor. "Ah!" Then Medusa screamed, "Ah!" woken suddenly from her bright new future. "My beautiful hands!" screamed Monsieur Joseph. "My tools!" He held his hands aloft, but the venom had worked quickly. Monsieur Joseph didn't have hands anymore. He had huge, pulsating red balloons on the end of his delicate wrists. They looked like angry udders. The head snakes hissed and snapped, trying to bite their attackers some more, but Medusa had jumped off the seat, and she was backing toward the door. "What have you done?" screamed Monsieur Joseph, his accent slipping. You have angry hair? Hair that attacks? What kind of freak are you? I'm not a freak, said Medusa, backing away from the udders. I'm sorry about your hands. Sorry? Screamed Monsieur Joseph. You are sorry? Get out! You have ruined me! Get out, I say! He waved one of the udders angrily at the door. The swelling will go down in a month, Medusa called, but Monsieur Joseph didn't look like he cared. She grabbed her satchel and ran as fast as she could all the way home.